Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Moving Markets Podcast. It is Thursday, November the 6th, 2025. U.S. stock market has been closed for just about 40 minutes right now. No getting around it. It was an ugly day in the market. Didn't start out horrible. I think we started out with a little bit of upward momentum on the NASDAQ. The Dow flirted with some positive territory for a little while in the early trading. You can see here that within probably not even 15 minutes of the open, started out a little bit high. 10 minutes in, maybe started selling off a little bit, and then that's probably about 15 minutes into trading, it just accelerated down, had one little bump, and then it was down, down, down. Tried to make a recovery when there was about 30 minutes left in trading. It looked like things were going to improve. It looked like we might get a little bit of a rally into the close, and then last 30 minutes of the market just went back in the toilet. So, and I think the picture on the NASDAQ, even though the NASDAQ finished, and this is oftentimes the case, the S&P, you can see here the S&P finished, that's almost halfway between, maybe not quite, but almost halfway between the how far the Dow was down and how far the NASDAQ was down. But the pattern on all of them was pretty much identical. They kind of all moved in a very similar pattern. You can see the NASDAQ on the day, same thing, started, looked like it was going to be kind of good. Whoops, I want that out of there. There we go. There we go. Oh, I've got this all messed up now. I'll show you the pattern on the S&P. I'm screwing that up horribly by moving that around. 1 day pattern on the S&P, almost identical to what the Dow did. It just started okay. About 15 minutes in, had that dip, tried to make one little rebound, went in the toilet, tried to come back, and then in the last 30 minutes, the pattern will be the same on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ down a bigger percentage, almost down 2%. And if you look at a chart of, look at the last few days on any one of these. I'll pick the S&P since we're in an S&P trade. We're kind of getting right down here where we're going to test a technical crossover. The price of the S&P, the SPY, SPX finished today below the 20-day moving average, but the 5 and 20 have not crossed over yet. The RSI definitely pointing down, but the last time we had this little sell-off, it went right down to the 50 mark, to the crossover, didn't quite cross over it. And that really means we could have another down day before that RSI would cross down. And as you can see here, the MACD has not crossed over to negative territory yet. So tomorrow will be an incredibly interesting day. There's, as far as why did the markets move like this today, the headline for a good portion of the day basically said that more concerns over AI and AI valuations. Well, this morning when the market was starting to turn and head really down, the three indexes, I listened to a couple of different analysts that came online, or that came on the news, and were basically saying AI is not, in trouble. We're at the very beginning of AI. There's still a long runway for this thing to be amazing. Not a big deal that valuations are never going to be in line with what people would like them to be relative to other industries and other sectors. And it wasn't just one analyst. I don't remember who it was that specifically said that. It wasn't just one analyst that said that. It was a couple. But really interesting that that's what the excuse was for the sell-off. I think it's just one more of these little dips like we had here, and we had one here, and we had a little one here, and we had a more exaggerated one here, and now we're having one right here. I think that's the way this market. You can even go back, and you got one here, and you got one here. These are all since we hit that low in April for the year, and this is still an overall incredibly bullish run. And I don't think this bullish run is necessarily going to end. Now, I could be wrong. We could get technical crossovers. We could come down and test a strong level of support. We could have that 8 to 10%, somewhere between a pullback and a correction. I'm not suggesting that cannot happen, but here's why I think it won't happen. after Tuesday's elections, where Democrats did very well, and I don't know that that should have come as a surprise. I think some people acted like that was a big surprise. The only thing to me that was surprising is that the New Jersey race was not a little bit closer, and that Jay Johnson won Attorney General in Virginia. That guy's a cretin. That guy should not have a place in politics. And it's disgusting to me, absolutely disgusting to me, that every prominent Democrat in this country did not fully condemn what he said and what he put on some text messaging, and demand that he drop out of the race. And the fact that he still won, that just, boy, that speaks so poorly of Virginia voters and what motivates them and what they're willing to overlook for the party line. But anyways, those are the only two things that to me that were a surprise, that Ciattarelli wasn't a little bit closer, and that Jay Johnson actually got in. Other than that, nothing that happened on Tuesday was a big surprise. But what it did, and this does relate very directly to the markets, what it did is it emboldened Democrat senators, it emboldened them and got them to dig their heels in a little bit. And according to a couple of Republican senators, it got them to full on renege on an agreement they had made, saying they would, in fact, there's 12 to 14 Senate Democrats who agreed to passing a clean CR after passing 3 budget appropriation bills, as long as there was included in that a guarantee that they would get a vote in the House and in the Senate on the Obamacare subsidies and the Affordable Care Act, which is which is basically what Republicans have been saying this entire time, is, look, we'll give you, if you'll vote for this clean CR, we'll open the government and we guarantee we'll get a vote on that. Well, apparently after the elections on Tuesday, those Democrats suddenly changed and moved the goalpost again and said, no, we want you to guarantee us an outcome on a vote on the ACA, which is, that's got to be one of the most arrogant, I don't know another word, just the arrogance, the hubris, the outright audacity, the gall to say, we want you to guarantee us the outcome of a vote for us passing this clean resolution, this CR, continuing resolution, this clean CR. And it's just, if that's true, and I'm not there, I'm not in the halls of Washington, D.C. or the state capitol, the country's capital. If that is true, though, man alive, I'd get every opportunity I could to call those Democrats out by name. Don't just go on TV and say, we had a handful of Democrats that were going to vote for this, and this is what they suddenly moved the goalpost, and this is what they changed. I would go on TV and I would say, these are 12 Democrats who we had conversations with that said they would change their vote for the continuing resolution, and then vote for these 3 appropriation bills that would get the military funded, get Capitol Police funded, get the SNAP benefits back, and the farmers funded. I think those were all included in there. I could be wrong on that. And then we guarantee that we'll have some debate and have a vote on some of these ACA subsidies, and they just absolutely full on went back on what they told us, and then make them squirm a little bit. Now, when the microphone gets put in front of their face, they'll say, no, we didn't agree to that, and they'll look and sound and be seen for the liars that they are. So anyway, it's infuriating me. But here's the reason I got off on a little bit of tangent. Here's the reason I got off on that. The reason I think this will be one more of these little pullback, short-term blips, is because I do believe, if not this weekend, by the beginning of next week, Democrats are going to simply feel the heat too much on not opening the government back up. It is going to start affecting people's Thanksgiving travel plans, including members of their own staff, including they themselves potentially, with airline shutdowns, with airports having to cut back. This morning, Transportation Secretary Duffy said that 40 airlines. I don't know if he said it specifically or through a spokesperson for the FAA, but he said 40 airports are experiencing major cutbacks and major delays because of the lack of air traffic controllers. So I don't think. I hope the Republicans take a hard stand on this and do not cave, because I don't think beyond this weekend Democrats have any hope of not just having a party collapse. You got to know there's 10 to 15 Democrat senators that are like, look, this thing is going to cost us our next election. We are towing the party line right now because we're afraid of the repercussions if we don't. But at some point in time, very, very soon, the repercussions of not doing the right thing are going to be greater than the repercussions of the leadership in the Democratic Senate, the Senate Democrats, withholding funds. And yeah, right now, I think these Democrats that probably want to do the right thing and open the government are under threat of, we control the purse strings, and you're going to get no money for your reelection if you don't stay in line with what we're trying to do right now. And I really truly believe that that's what a lot of them are probably experiencing right now, and that that's what's going to cause them to have to come around no later than the first part of next week if they don't do it in the next day or two. And when that happens, you're going to see, even if this gets a little bit dicey and sort of stays down and wobbly like this for another 3-4 trading days, then you're going to see that next leg up, and it's going to be a rally into the end of the year. So that's my prediction on what's going to go on. Look, the move down has affected 3 of our trades that we have open. The SPY trade is down. The NVIDIA trade is down. The Amazon trade is down. I'm not in the least worried about any of these 3 trades. In fact, I think as early as tomorrow morning, you could see NVIDIA and Amazon coming back up. I think NVIDIA could honestly start popping. If you look at NVIDIA on this chart, and let me do this. I'm going to do this for NVIDIA, but the same thing applies for Amazon. I was looking at this earlier, and you notice I've got the 50-day moving average in here. And NVIDIA could come down and test this 50-day moving average, but it dipped below it right there, but then it was back up quickly. It floated along there. It tested it right here a few times, but then it managed a big rally and move up. I don't think NVIDIA is going to break this 50-day moving average. I think it could come down just a little bit more and test it. And either when it starts to rebound ahead of that, or if it hits that 50-day moving average and gets a bounce off it, like I think it will, we will buy to close our NVIDIA short calls. We could do that as early as tomorrow, but I don't want to send that adjustment out tonight. I want to wait and see what is going on at the open of the market tomorrow. And I would urge you to watch Discord tomorrow morning in case we decide to make that play. Same thing with Amazon. Although with Amazon, I think the 50-day moving average might be just a little bit farther. Yeah, a little bit farther away on Amazon on the 50-day moving average. And I don't think Amazon is going to come all the way down and test that. And then on our SPY trade, this is not specifically the SPY, but same thing. If we throw that 50-day moving average in here, I think you'll see basically the same thing, that we're getting down just like we did, on this last dip. We're getting down kind of close to it. I think the price of the SPY could get close to that, but I don't think it's going to go all the way over and cross over it. So I think that's where we're at going into the end of this week and into tomorrow. So be watching Discord tomorrow for that possible change. On the caller side of things, Snap had an okay day today after their earnings yesterday. Should have been a lot better. They were up a lot higher at one point. So for just for another couple of days, we'll leave Snap alone. And then Palantir, after their earnings, they're down a lot. Our long puts have gone way up in value. We're still incredibly profitable in Palantir. And I think this is going to give us an opportunity to add shares to Palantir. We've got 400 in my position. I've got 400 shares right now. As soon as I feel like Palantir is hitting a bottom, and I don't know exactly when that will be, Palantir, they could, I think they actually could cross over the 50-day moving average. I don't know that they will. I think they maybe a little bit better chance of that happening, because as you can see right here, the price of the stock did finish below the 50-day moving average today, and really, really close to a technical crossover on the 5 and 20-day moving average, but it still hasn't come on that or on the RSI or on the MACD. So I think the fact that it finished close to the 50, I think that's where the stock price will bounce off and head back up. So Palantir, I'm going to cash in long puts and add more shares immediately if I feel they have hit a bottom. Let me go back to this chart just one more time. I would have told you before today that maybe this 180 would set up as a really good line of support. And if the stock is up tomorrow and this ends up being kind of a one-off, then 180 will still look like support a few days from now. But the next strong level of support is right here at 170. So I don't think it's out of the question that Palantir could come down to 170. And if they do and they don't break below it, I'm all in on Palantir, both on another long-term spread trade as well as buying more shares and rolling long puts for the collar trade. So that's where we find ourselves going into a Friday morning. I am going to be online on Discord in the morning. I am going to be all over that. If you're following the triple play trade, should have gotten out of SMCI with full profit. Hood had a major move down today, and I believe I don't have him here. I don't have them here on my main watch list, but they moved down far enough today that our options don't expire till the end of next week, but both of our put options are fully in the money. And I would recommend on Hood that maybe whatever profit you have, you take it and get out tomorrow or be ready to get out Monday. I'm a little bit fearful that they could have a rebound and take those put options out of the money, but then by the end of next week, not go high enough to guarantee that our call side is fully in the money. So I think I'll be watching Hood closely in the morning. We might just exit that first thing in the morning. All right, I'm going to wrap up right there. Hope you had a good Thursday in spite of the ugly market today. I actually do think tomorrow will be better, but we'll see. And I'll be online to watch it, and we'll see what happens. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.